before Lucien joined us. So I think I showed you, yeah, the first day I showed you some sample of his work. So he's going to talk about his work, his process, and if you have any question, Lucien loves to talk. So so maybe I'll have to stop him at some point, but but it's great actually. He's really enthusiastic, and it's been a great experience for me as a gallerist to work with him, because actually that's something I wanted to. That's how I always want to convey to students, especially the people who are interested in fine art. It's really great as a curator and as a gallery when you have a responsible artist in working, someone who answers their emails, someone who presents their work properly, all these things that you're learning at the academy. You will be surprised how many advanced artists are not doing this very well. Okay, so Lucien is here. I'm going to admit him, and then the class is open to other students today. I mean, Lucien's conversations open to other students, so I'm going to keep opening the room to whoever pops in. Okay. Oh, Clover is joining.
Hi, Manu.
Hi, Lucien. So good to see you.
So great to meet you. So great to meet you. So great to meet you, everybody. Thanks for having me.
So let's wait a little bit if some other people are joining us, because it's open to the whole academy.
Yeah, cool.
So for those of you in my class, which is almost everyone here except for two of you, except for Laurie and Clover, I'm glad to see you, to have you here. So this is, oh, that's it, it's 1:45, so I'm going to present you. Let's start. Lucien Liu is presenting his work today, and he's going to talk a little bit about his work. I also ask you a little bit about your experience. You're doing a lot of things related to photography, and you're engaged deeply into the photography community here in the Bay Area. One thing you may notice, because we can see Lucien's room, is that there are plenty of photo books. And
oh my God. Oh my
God. It's not a critic, Lucien. It shows how passionate you are. It's not a critic at all. This is great. It shows how passionate you are. Because I remember when we did the studio visit with you, we are like, oh, we entered the room and you're like, okay, this guy is serious about photography.
It's really hard to, like, for moving, you know, it's a nightmare for moving, you know.
No,
the photo books are like, yeah, no.
It's hard.
But
I
it's good.
collect some, and my husband is tired of seeing of them. Last night he was looking for, he's like, I'm looking for a normal book, not a photo book. So no, it's good. It's so good to have you here. So
thank you.
So maybe, well, let's start. That's one. So I'll give you I'll let you
share my screen.
Yeah, share your screen. And
okay, cool.
And so
thanks
please, I'm sorry, my class, if you have any question, please write them down and ask Lucien, and anyone else here, ask question to Lucien.
Yes, and please stop me anytime if you are interested or like curious about what I'm going to share. And I'm going to share my screen. Oh, quick introduction. I'm a Academy of Art photo alumni, and I graduated 2 years ago. And now I'm living in Bay Area, San Francisco, and I work for Photo Alliance, which is a 20-year, next year will be our 20 years anniversary, and we are hosting some like events, lectures, and here. And I also work with Emmanuel, and we just finished our first show in her gallery. Thank you so much for having me in your gallery. And I'm so glad to be here and share some of my work. And hopefully it will just like show you guys something different, because I always say when I was in school and chasing my MFA degree, and it feels like I'm the weirdest person in the building. So hopefully this will help you. And because so Emmanuel, this is a fine art class, right?
Yes.
Okay, great. Because fine art sometimes means like limited, and like you can do whatever you want. I'm going to share my screen. Okay, and let's start. So please, feel free to stop me anytime. You can unmute you, so that I know which images you want to talk about. So today, my topic will be looking back and looking forward to, which is something I always like when people ask me, well, how are you going to like how you are doing your own work, how you're gonna like do your next step. I always say, oh, I'm always looking back and looking forward to the future. So first of all, let me see why it is not moving. All right, here. Oops. All right. So City of Love, actually, you will see on the next slides, I have totally changed. City of Love is actually the scene, the first year. I came to San Francisco in 2016, from Beijing. At that time, I was kind of like doing a street photography and a documentary style. I love watching Magnum photos and like set up a topic and said, okay, I want to just record something, record like ordinary people's life around me. So actually City of Love is the first project I did when I came to school, because I want to record like people showing the romantic moment from the school. No, not from the school, like, I changed the whole, I moved from another country to here and I changed the whole environment. So like people showing the romantic moment, like a kissing on the street or something like that. And it really fascinated me. So that's actually what I'm doing. But after a year, a thing totally changed me, which is I went to Photo Lines, which is where I'm working for right now. There is a photo talk. And in that talk, there are the three artists, which is Teresa, Clea, and Megan. You can see actually those three images are the poster. They promote that lecture at that time. Teresa again is an artist doing like a digital collage or in the traditional way and doing huge prints. Clea McKenna is doing something. The photo showing here is she was doing some very unique photogram, and Megan, you can see that's a cyanotype, the huge cyanotype. After that, I was just kind of like shocked at that time. I was saying, oh, how could you call these things being photography? Because none of them are shooting camera. They are cameraless photographer. At that time, it's just so weird seeing a word said, okay, cameraless photographer. It sounds like unconnected. So I just go back to school, ask the different instructors from Academy of Art. And so I started my career doing all of these things. So I started to try different alternative processes. So that's liquid emotion, actually. Those two, that's just two different kind of glass. I think one of it is a plastic glass, one is a real glass. I coated the liquid motion on it and print in the darkroom. So you can see the photo on the left, you can see the liquid motion, the coating is not that good. And the emotion was peeling off when I put it into the fixer in the darkroom. But I kind of like that feeling. And I was just trying different material at that time. So that's my very beginning. And on my point of view from today, I feel like starting with liquid motion is pretty hard. It's a process pretty hard to control. And I try different things like a broken field, like a lens filter, a brush. You can see on the brush the metal part. There's the image on it, and a printing image on my glass clothes, and two of my roommates printing on a piece of glass. So I just playing different processes and playing different material, then moving forward to an older process, which is a cyanotype. It's very easy to do, just to mix the chemical A and B together, coat it on the paper. You don't even need a dark room, but you can start it to like break the rules, like put the paper on it and create whatever you want. And then I worked a lot in the darkroom. I tried chemograms, and I'm not good at portrait, and but I kind of like doing selfie things. And so those are processes we call chemogram. It's dangerous in darkroom, and do not do that by yourself without any instructor with you. And it's kind of like you break the rules when you are in the darkroom. You don't have to follow different things like these 3 images I saw. I played with the hand soap and the mouth rings and like a coffee powder or something like that. And at that time, I kept to use the darkroom at on Sutter Street. And it says, okay, I'm going to use this darkroom this afternoon. And if you feel it smells so fresh, which means I was there. And just to break some rules and printing with images. And I was a little bit ambitious, I have to say. So I took a workshop to learn daguerreotype. And I am not doing daguerreotype for 2 years. It's a very fascinating process. The very beginning concept of what is the photography is, because you guys already finished your photo history class, and we in the photo history we talk about in 1839, and French people announced, okay, we invited something, and with this you can get a portrait much faster than a painting, in which is a daguerreotype. And it's a silver plate, and you have to polish the silver plate to look like a mirror. And the ISO is super low, and you have to like put it into the view camera and a shot with that. I like my self-portrait, I think it's a 12-second exposure time with a wide open lens. So it's a very cool process, but complicated to do, it's pretty dangerous, and it requires a lot of things, the chemicals, but it's a really good attempt for me to understand what the very original photography process is. And then I tried photogravure, which is let me see, which is kind of a combination, with photography and printing making. So first of all, you need to transfer your image on a copper plate like this, and then you ink it up, then you're good to go to print. So once you got the plate, you're good with the print. And so if you see in the back, you can see there's the etch mark. It's kind of like a very, very fascinating process, and you can get a very unique looking. I guess my next project we are working with photogravure, and but it's just to bring me very fresh feeling about photography. Like, oh, photography is not like picking up a camera and shooting and then printing it out. And so there's a lot of things you can do with that. You have it's kind of like really, really breaks the boundary of my understanding of the word photography. So after trying all of this stuff, and I started to working with some process-based project. If you ask me what kind of a photo artist I am, I will say I'm like a photo-based or process-based. So this is the very first project I did. I call it a fragmental friendship, which I talked to some of a friend here. On the very left, it's a chemogram. I've already showed the picture before. This is I splash the developer and the fixer on the Jansen silver paper so that you can get the feeding over there. And I print the exactly same image on the 1/4 inch thick glass, but cut it into different shapes. The whole project has 6 images, and put everything in a box. So I would say I try to say at that time, I feels like a friendship is pretty fragile. So I want to, and it will break in different ways, and it's even not that clear on a piece of paper. That's the meaning of that. And then I did this, which, let me see if I have that here. Give me a sec. Oh, I will show you later anyway. So it's I have a huge collection of my very old like family photos, like the baby on the chair, that's my father. And so I collect them, reprinted them through one deck drawing process, and put them into a book. Let me see if I can find that book. I will show you later. It's, so the book has like the sleeve on it. You can see I printed all the information on a piece of vellum. It's transparent looking, and then you can just take it out with all of these things. And it's kind of like a book style showcase of my family. I've already collected a kind of like 500 family photos. So this is a continuing project with that. It's so it looks like this. It's a handmade book, and you can see on the very left image, this transparency. You can see where this image came from, and who they are, what is connection with them and me, and that's just I would say volume 1. This could be like a 2 or 3 in the future. So I spent kind of like 2 years doing all of these processes and feeding the difference, and while reading the photography history book, and I can say, oh, that's why at that time people using cyanotype. That's why when like on the 1850s, people started to doing red plate clothing and something like that. I started to understand why this process came from, how this process can help me with my projects, which means material presentation or whatever. They are tools for me, they are very important. Like I don't have to like be limited by all of these things. I know a lot of people enjoy doing all of these photographic processes, but don't be limited with that. You have a right to like break the rules and do whatever they can help you. And then I started to think about my final thesis work, which is a petrichor. It's a very weird word. At the beginning, still, I at that time, I think I've already have a couple of the images. I thought that's good for that will be the images for my final book. But process is still a big problem for me. I just go back to what I've done before, like from the chemigram tuned cyanotype, like a chemigram multiple layers. It's a pretty complicated thing. In even lumen print, on the fourth image, it says a weak exposure. I just leave it over there for a week, and so that I get the color like that. And then I logged bromoil as my final print. This is a kind of like a very basic bromoil print. From the left to right, you have to print it out, the jet and silver print, and then you need to figure out the overexposure time of that, so that you can kind of like have a very, very, very dark image. And let me just, I hope I really want to like show you in person. So this is a kind of like a normal looking of a jet and silver print. This is what I got from the darkroom. And then what you need to do is to overexpose like this. It's kind of like you cannot see anything in it. It's a dark print. Then bleach out. So you got this as a second step, and then bleach out. You got this ghost print. Then use the ink to ink back. So you got a final print. And here are the two of things. The first 2 videos, very short. The first videos, it's the bleaching. You can see the jet and silver print, like started to fade away. That's kind of 5 minutes. And then you got the ghost print after that, like this. And then after that, you have to dry the ghost print, then ink it back like this.
So,
Emmanuel, you're muted.
So on the left, it's the video of the bleaching.
It's a bleaching. Yeah. Let me just play it again. It's a very gross color, chemicals, 3 chemicals mixed together, and you just put it over there, and for like 6 to 12 minutes. It depends on the size of the paper, the brand of the paper, and like how many times you have been put your print in the chemical, then ink it back like this. This is not a good print, but I just put it over here to show how the images just showed up like that. Basically, the theory of a bromo print is jet and silver print is you have a real silver in the paper, and we use different inks to replace the silver atom in the paper. And if now I'm printing with like a very normal black ink, but what if I switch to the red ink? I got a red print. So the final print is kind of like this. This is a final bromo print. I got it framed. It's something like that. So I liked the process, but still a lot of things to show up like this. This is the detail of a bromo print. You can see the brushstroke on it, and it's has a very rough texture. And yeah, I think that's the thing I was looking for. Like Petrichor is a project to talk about like some vision in my mind, and I just keep seeing that at the present, but I need some time to figure it out. It's kind of like describing my experience of my life. So this process, this texture really worked for me. At the beginning of my final thesis work, actually what I was looking for is just a texture, which Photoshop cannot give it to me. And I want unique prints, which I figured out the bromo oil. And here's a comparison with two images. On the left is the silver print scan, and on the right is the bromo oil scan. And if you can see the print in person, you can see the surface is pretty thick. You can tell the thickness, and you can tell like the texture from the surface. It's pretty awesome, I have to say. And besides my final thesis work, I was still exploring the possibilities in the darkroom. I did this project. I do the hand print, and I mix the honey, there's some soap and coffee. I forgot to drink, and half coffee in my studio, and just mix everything together, coated it on my hand, and then created the hand print. And you can see negative, positive. It's playing with the developer and the fixer so that you can get different feelings like that. And then this is a diptych with two of my hand prints. And another thing is I did this at the beginning, but I'm still working with this right now, which is actually what this is a very small print, and what you saw is actually a Starbucks cup. You have the top edges and the bottom edges, and that's just a different size so that you can play with that to create the full moon or sun, whatever you want to say. And this is what I got at the end. And I think I have 10 prints like this. And you can see on the top right one, that's just some like, I can't remember, maybe spicy sauce from the lunch, and some leftover from the lunch, and I just bring them to my studio and created images. So don't be limited by that. And another thing really makes me, during that time, from the very beginning, I talk about the word like cameraless photography, but of course, those are definitely cameraless. But there is another thing kind of in between, which is what I'm doing right now, which is the pinhole. So I guess from any of the photo history books, you've already seen this, which is a very beginning structure of the camera. What you need is just a dark box and a small hole, so you can get an image over there. The only thing you need to solve is you need something to help you to record the images over there. But now in the scene, you can see in this picture, people just like a painting, from the view, and they saw through the camera. And then I started to do pinhole. And basically, I don't have any lens on my camera. There's just a tiny hole on it. And this is a practice. And I transfer a coffee bean bag into a camera. Then I photograph the one in the center, and then Photoshop so that I get the final result. And then the one I photographed, I transfer this into another camera too. So basically, this is a can, and then when I open it, put a piece of paper, photographic paper in it, and tape it to avoid the light leak. And this tape is my shutter. And when I just open it, boom, you are good to go. There's a tiny hole. I'm not sure if you can see here. Here is the between B and O, there's a tiny hole. That's my lens actually. So this is so I just keep making cameras during COVID. I have nothing to do at that time. I made kind of like 100 cameras during that time. So like this is the camera have a 15 pinholes on it, which is a cookie can. And this board is actually my shutter. What I need to do is when I put a piece of paper in it here on the back in the darkroom, and put them together and place the corrector paste, and then I can get 15 images at the same time. Like in the slideshow, you can see the middle one is a self-portrait. I just hold it very close to my face, and I got 15 images together. Because the distance with different holes to my face, they are different. So some of them can photograph my nose, some of them photograph my forehead, and then I cut it off and do a collage to put them together. And this is another design. It's a tiny camera, and it has 13 holes on it. I use a very, very strong flash to flash up my face. It's still like 13 or 14 seconds exposure. So I got 13 images on a tiny piece of paper at the same time.
How do you calculate the, oh, I'm sorry to interrupt.
Go ahead.
How do you calculate the aperture?
Aperture is, that's a very good question. It's kind of like a mathematics stuff. And first of all, you need to measure the container. Like you need to know the distance from your pinhole to the back where you place the paper or like light sensitive material. And then you need to know how big your pinhole is. I have a chart. It's talking about when you punch the hole with different size of the needle, you can sort of get a size of that. But once you finish making a pinhole camera, you have to do some tests. Like you have to say, okay, this is my calculate. And let's do with the calculate to see if it's overexposed or underexposed. So you have to do some tests. But anyway, it's a good try. This is tiny camera. So with all of these things, I got an image like this. You can see the distortion goes crazy, and the bottom right one, that's when I visited New York City. Hi, Lin, I saw you here. I visited Lin with my friend living in New York City, and that's a 7 hours exposure during night. I twisted the paper in my camera so that you can see the crazy distortion, the lens distortion over there. And here the 2 long exposure test. On the left, it's I just placed my camera like very close to my bed, and then I fall asleep. You can see my sleeping is pretty good, 7 hours and not even move. And on the right is I tied a camera on my arm, very tight, use tape. Then I started to make coffee. So you can see the light goes anywhere. It's kind of like a drawing, but you still get a pretty sharp, like a coffee kettle over there. And here is the image of New York City, and it's pretty wide angle lens pinhole over there. And I would say a lot of people, I heard a lot of people doubting like what kind of thing is real photography. I would say this is the definition of photography. Like a photography is a photo plus graph, which means drawing with light. You don't have to use a camera. If you do anything about drawing with light, you're doing photography. So don't be limited with that. And then besides this, actually this Serenity is a project I did actually from the school, and I took a grad class called self as subject. And I guess a lot of people have this experience. Once I got a new lens, new camera, new film, I just want to try to do a selfie, which is kind of like a similar thing we did, holding my iPhone and do a selfie like that and post it to social media. And I did a lot. When I took that class, I was struggling with the definition about the self-portrait and the selfie. So I started to do some collage. This is the first version of Serenity. I did collages, and I still following the processes. So from the very left to right, it's I did a self-portrait. Yeah, so selfie, whatever, and print it out and started to like tear the paper and playing with that. Then scan that collage, create a digital negative, then get the very right, which is a piece of toned cyanotype. Let me show you. This is the result. And I chose the black mat board. And it's toned cyanotype, a pretty big size of the cyanotype. And but it's toned but not showing any blue color on it. And then at that time, I started to doing Pinhole. So I developed this project kind of like 6 months later, which is all of this. I designed a Pinhole for my digital camera so that I can just easily raise up the ISO and lower that. And so the left one is a double exposure with a Pinhole. The right one is a long exposure. Well, like I think 10 seconds exposure for each pose, like move, play with my eyes, still similar idea of this, like put eyes together, and the right one is just a normal Pinhole shooting. And this is a pretty close Pinhole shooting with film, and same idea. And then doing this, the top one is a close-up shooting, and the kind of like a normal portrait shooting, but double exposure. And the bottom one is a triple exposure with Pinhole, so you can see like it's not sharp, but it's got the mood I want. And here are two of my favorites, and it's shooting during the night. And every posing, I did a strobe, light it up my face, 10 seconds for each posing, and light it up every time. So during doing all of this, I explore myself a little bit and trying to combine my shooting skills and my printing skills and my camera making skills. It's kind of like putting everything together. I'm still working on this right now. It's an unfinished project, and I'm looking forward to see what's going on for the future. And then I would say it's a very, very good try to explore your boundary of yourself and to see who are you and what you can do with your camera. And then here is a pretty new one. As I mentioned, and during COVID, we were locked at home. So I was thinking, okay, I cannot do any landscape outside now. So what I can do at night. So I started thinking about how about doing photography. I guess some of you might see this image, the news called the longest known exposure photography ever. It's an 8 years exposure. And every line, which means a day. So, sounds are moving, and so it's just goes up and down all the time. And this is a photographer. Actually, she's a scientist, not a real artist. She just places a camera over there and just leave it over there and whatever. And then, so I want to try something similar. This is my photograph. But compared with her camera, my camera is much smaller than hers. I use this camera to create this image, which means my paper is just a business card size. But I still got the color. It's not sharp enough, but it's a successful try. And the aperture is f/17, and it's lasted 5 months to figure out that thing. And then when your aperture goes to f/70, it's pretty small. But I tried with my Hasselblad with the smallest aperture I can get is the f/22, and this is still 7 hours. And you can see the sun give you a line over there. Then I started to say, I want to do this project. Then I started to design all my cameras. For those are all my cameras. They have different shapes. They have different apertures. You can have different shapes in camera so that you can play with the distortion. And I even tried cyanotype, and if you are familiar with the artist Chris McCall, and he's fascinated and like I would say breathtaking, sunburn photography. But this is some successfully try the sun really burns through my thin anti-paper, and those are unfixed. I saw the potential over there, but I have not done any project with that yet. And then I started to do the 1 day solar, but of course, this is not 1 day. This is a 5 weeks exposure. And you can see some of the line is not a straight line. There is some breakup over there, which means maybe sun hiding the cloud, or it's pretty foggy. I'm living in sunset San Francisco right now. It's I would say, most foggy place in San Francisco. So I got something like this. And this is an example how I placed my camera. I just taped it over there and photographed the lake. You can see the photo on the right. There's 2 lines. The pretty clear one is actually the reflection in the lake, but the line on the top is hidden in the bushes, which is blocked by the tree. And this is me and in Emmanuel's gallery, and we did a week exposure test. This is a unfixed paper, but you can still see some images over there. What you need to do is just fix that, like as a lumen print, then scan it so that you can get a very special color like this. And here is some images of the project. I call it 1 day solar because I limited the exposure time and the 24 hours. And different from the images I showed before like this, you have multiple lines, but what I did is I want just 1 line, but you can see the second row, the third image on the second row, you have multiple lines because I have multiple pinholes on 1 camera. So it created multiple lines on 1 image. And I'm continue doing this project. I have kind of like 30 images now, and I tried the liquid motion last week. It doesn't work very well, but I'm still playing with that. And so it's pretty much close to the end. I would say, of course, you saw some pretty successful images. Something not that good, but I would say you always have more solutions than difficulties. You will have tons of like failures, but you'll be fine. And it is good. And you have visions, you have maybe some illusions. I always check with history, go back to the photo history. It's only like 180 years. So easy to check with all the great photo artists in photo history, and to see what they are doing, and then looking back and looking forward to. Thank you. That's it.
Thank you. That was
Any
awesome.
questions? Any questions?
How many, like, have you lost any cameras or had cameras stolen when you do those
Yes.
long exposures?
Yes. I would say 25%. Like one of four. I lost the camera because it's just a cans or like a candy cans or like tea cans, something like that. If I left it over there, even though I left a note that the photographing don't touch, and people still saying, oh, it's just trash, and it's gone anyway. Hi, Christy. But anyway,
I had a question. I think it was the photo gravure where you you put the ink on it and made a print. How many prints can you get from that?
Once you got a plate, you can do as many as you want, but
You're not gonna wear it down. Okay.
No, and because that's copper plate, it's etched, and so you got that forever, but you cannot change the size anymore. It's done size, and if you want to go the bigger.
What size were the ones you showed?
I think that's a 9x9, 8x8 or 9x9, something like that. Because I'm not a big fan of big print. I love seeing big print, but I'm not making big print.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of your pinholes and some of your work in Connie's class.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, she showed it off.
Yeah, I'm kind of like, I always think about making books, so I don't want the print to be like super big. I think the biggest print I made is maybe 20 by 24. That's the biggest. I'm not a big fan of big prints.
So why are you not a big fan of big prints in this era where everyone is doing giant work? Why do you think it brings to your work the fact that they're smaller?
I think maybe 3 years ago, I want to do big prints, but now I feel like big print doesn't work for me. like what I'm doing right now is more like I design all the images as a project. So I know which image goes to the first and which 2 or 3 images should work with each other, which 3 should be a triptych. And there is always been a thing in my mind, and it says, okay, this image should be on page 52 on the left, and then the right will be a bank one. So I always have a mind like that. Which means I don't want all my images to be big and exist individually. So there's a logic over there, and which one goes to the first, which one goes to the second. And if I pick one of them and hang it on the wall, it has to be a very unique one. And of course I can do a big print, but I just prefer not to do that.
Micah?
I think also too, like the way the process that you use, it kind of makes the print more true to life, because it makes it like the size of what you're using. So it's kind of unique in that way of, you know, if you're using like a small Altoid scan and the print comes out that size, it kind of makes sense for it to be that big instead of so large. Yes,
and because I just worked with Emmanuel with our show together. I think doing a show is an exhibition or whatever it is, like presenting your work is a new thing. Like you have to think about how you have your own connection with your audience. Like once you see the gallery, you say, oh, here is a gallery. This is how the gallery looks like. And how should I bring the audience, like see my work in the way I thought it should be, you know? Like if I do a giant print, the gallery should support me to do that. Like I should allow my audience to back up enough to see the whole thing. And if I do a tiny print, you know, my audience have to like go very close to my print, and so which means your details have to be very good. So it's kind of like the whole system, and especially during exhibition. Like this is like when you are making a book, and what is the size of a book? If that's a big size of a book, heavy enough in the hardcover, or like a handy enough soft print and loose pages. They are just a totally different presentation. I think presentation is, for me, for now, it's sometimes it's more important than photography itself, because you know that's the final thing. You have you bring your own engagement to your audience. It's just a thing you have to think about.
Yeah, it was interesting in the gallery to see that in this area of large print, as we're talking, as I was saying.
Yeah, this is a print.
Good.
This is a print we made, you know, for the exhibition. So see, compare with my face. This is a 11x14 frame and a 7x7 round cut mapboard, and it's small enough because I have 15 pieces on one wall. There is no turn, just on one wall. So we decide together to print it pretty small and use a small frame but round cut so that people can get there close enough to see the details.
Yeah, and I think the circular cut
works really well.
It works really well because it brings this idea that they look like, you know, when they were 15 on the wall, they look like planets.
Yes.
A little bit. And so, you know, and since all the work is related to the sun, it was interesting. And it's interesting to me too that you're talking about the fact that you're often thinking about how would this work fit into a book? Because I think somehow it was conveyed to the audience. Several people decided to buy several of them, you know, instead of one. So they were seeing them as series or as little groups already, even if they were all separated on the walls. So I think you communicated that very well to your audience.
Yes, I think back to like artist part. It's I'm open to all the art forms, and I think one of the job for artists is like you have to like express yourself to your audiences, to the people who check your work, and which means you have to give them room to think about that. you have to build up I think the biggest job is you build up the bridge, but you still give them room for their own imagination. Like when they see the world, they cannot just see, oh, that's it, that's the end. And I saw whatever you told me, but I feel like that's not good enough. I feel like you should give them rooms that, oh, I feels like that. I have some feelings, good or bad, they are all fine, because you, in some way, you just sometimes you trigger them in some way. So I think that's a big mission for artists.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I think good art asks more questions than it answers, because it's always very interesting for the artist when the reaction is completely different than what you expected. Too, when the vision or when what people see in your work is very different too. And I think it shows the potential of the piece when actually it creates that, instead of oh, I get it, and then next.
So you have to, oh, here is the book I made for my family.
Oh,
it's a Japanese bending, and when you open it, oh, there's a loose pages, and it's actually, that's the vellum transparency. You can see through that. Actually, those are all Van Dyke Brown print on it. In each page, you've got a page like this, and let me see, something like this. And if you want to see through that, you have to like pull it out.
So the vellum was printed on your computer? And
no, vellum is printed by Van Dyke Brown too.
Ah.
The taxonomy of Van Dyke.
Okay.
So this is just a start, but for now, it's a pretty ambitious project, because I have to figure out who is who. If some of them I know they are my families, but I have no idea who they are. I never met them. And I think that one of the oldest paper can be maybe 1920s, something like that. So I have no idea who they are. I have to do more researches with them. I have families on my father's side and my mother's side. How can I put them together as a project? I don't know. So, but I'm not worried about that. It's just a project besides on my main project. I always doing at least 2 projects at the same time, one main project and one side project. Because I need my mind to be switched. I cannot focus on one thing like too much. So it's good.
Do you think having like 2 projects or multiple projects help you not get burnt out on one of them?
Yes. Yeah, I would say yes, but I know different people has different ideas, and I know from school you have a pressure from your class. That's true. You have a deadline, but now I don't have any deadline for my own projects. Expect there is a gallery ask me, said, okay, I want that thing, and buy when. But for my project now, my new project, I'm thinking kind of like 120 to 30 images, and it will be book, and my plan will be like 4 to 5 years to finish everything. The final print, additions, the book, everything, and the framed, everything, 4 to 5 years. It's good for me. And I'm not rush on it, because like 150 images, which means I need to shoot maybe 10,000 images, and then cut it to like maybe 3,000, then cut it to half, then cut it to half, then cut it to half until I got it over there. And then maybe that 10,000 images, they're the still good one, but maybe just not working for this project. I will just put it into the folder, said okay, potentially for the other projects. And when you're shooting, you will have new ideas come up, like, oh, this could be another direction for my next step. So who knows? Nobody knows what will happen. Like the images I just showed in Emmanuel's gallery, it was like I made a proposal to her with 2 other projects, and I haven't talked about this for so many times. And Diane, her partner, said, "Oh, what is this?" I said, "Oh, I'm just painting something. I'm painting pinhole cameras." And she was like, "Oh, I want that. And I don't want the project you proposed." So it just happened. And who knows? So my project is more like I would say it's a collection of a period of time of my life. Like I would consider maybe the Patricker described my past 5 years, and my next project might be described my next 10 years or something like that. I don't know. I'm still like looking for the answer.
Do you know what is going to be the subject of the next project and the process you're going to use?
Yeah, for now, I want to do photogravure because I want to do a loose page book with the real print, which means photogravure is definitely a good process for me. And that's one thing I'm thinking about. Maybe carbon print, but carbon print it's just too complicated to do. And it's a really, really good print process. But I need time to figure it out and compare with 2 different print processes. I shot tons of trees photos. I guess you already seen that. It could be tree, or maybe 100 photos, maybe 80 of them are trees. I don't know yet. I'm still shooting for now, and I think I'm on the right path right now, but I don't know. Let's see. I can try to show you some of the images on my website, but I'm not sure. I'm just to share my screen with. Actually, I'm running it as 2 projects right now, but that's first one thing, and then this is more like no trees over there. It got birds. It got like something around me, some of my neighbors, and this is the kind of something from the Patricker, the same car, and maybe spider. This is one thing, talking about where I'm living, who I am, and what I love to do. Some.
It's all large format.
I'm okay with all kinds of cameras. I think large format is just the work for me for this project because I love the slow process. It gave me more time to think about things. And for most of the time, for now, I'm shooting large format 4x5 right now. And but I don't want to go bigger. That's just too heavy. And Four Springs, they are all trees. So I treat this project as 2 projects right now, but I don't know yet. I just maybe at the end I just combine them together. That's just 2 images, at 2 different seasons. You can see the fog, you can see it's pretty sharp image over there, and like, oops, it's crashed. And I love like seeing through the leaves to see the trees. So I'm still working on it, but it's really hard to say. It's really, really hard to say what I'm doing right now. If you ask me what you're shooting like that, what are you shooting, and what do you want to say? The only thing I can tell you is I don't know. It's more like you ask me, oh, what is the meaning of your life in the past 2 years? I feel like, oh, I don't know. So yeah.
I think it's an important thing that what you're talking about. I think it's important sometimes to accept that we don't. Oops, sorry. That we accept that we don't know what we're doing.
Yeah.
And to continue to go and to work with that. And at some point, things are going to be clarified because it's very different from in school where you have a specific assignment and you have to answer what you're doing and why you're doing it and specific concept. And sometimes there are other ways of working. Some photographers work that way. They have a project. It's very specific. They know exactly what they're going to shoot, when, what. And some other people in fine art are working more intuitively.
Yes, but in another way, I think actually everybody, including me, actually we know what we are photographing. We just need time to figure it out, to clear what it is, because it's why you are photographing that. There has to be something really attractive to be there and press the shutter. There has to be something. You just need some time to like point it out what it is. Which means you need to like maybe revisit the place, maybe read more books, maybe just talk to your friends and figure out the thing. You just need time.
Some more questions? I have some more, but I want to know if there are more
Please,
questions
please,
from the
please,
class.
please.
Well, actually, you know, again, talking, so you were doing your graduate studies and then it was only 2 years ago.
Yes, yes.
Okay.
I think the Patrick curve, I think I have the thought of the Patrick curve kind of like 4 years ago. It's actually before my midpoint review. I thought I should do something like that, but I don't know how it will look like at the end. So, you know, like what I just talked about all my works, I just need time to figure out everything, like the images, the logic, and the final presentation, the final print process. You know, I need time to figure it out. It actually took me like 2 years to do everything. For me, for now, I thought it's pretty fast. 2 years doing like 50 images. I present 30 images at the end, but I thought it should be a 50 images project. I think 2 years is pretty fast for me.
So my question is this. So one thing I notice sometimes, especially, so if you're doing commercial photography, you finish school and then you look for clients and then you work on assignments for, you know, either doing documentary or commercial work. If you're doing fine art, you're pretty much on your own.
Yeah,
meaning
you're pretty much on your own.
So meaning you don't have deadlines necessarily at first, etc. So what keeps you going? What, you know, there are many people who go towards fine art and then once the school is over, they stop. So what keeps you motivated to continue and to continue and to continue to produce work?
Because I think before I came here, I was like a media manager doing marketing. And at that time, photography is a way to escape from my work. It's kind of like a photography, it's a thing to rescue me. And it's a very high pressure work, you know, even though it's paid well. But, you know, I consider photography, it's a safe zone for me. And so, and since I came here and I went to the grad school and doing a full-time photo artist, no, I'm not a full-time photo artist now, you know, like a much closer to photography than before. I feel like, well, you know, this is a thing I really love, you know, I just want to do it. Sometimes I feel like I want to express through something, you know, which is photography, you know, which means I have a pretty strong like self-motivation. And I think the self-motivation is pretty important. And you have to like push yourself over there. You know, you have to like just be hungry with everything, like be curious with everything. Like when you see this, you say, oh, I love it. You know, just to maybe spend 3 more seconds that, oh, why I love it. Just to think a little bit more, you know, you feel, oh, that's feels good sometimes. You know, like I did a lot of street photography, and sometimes when I walk towards maybe to one direction, and maybe 3 or 4 blocks, just looking back a little bit, you will see just something so different. You just walked by 10 seconds ago, but when you look back, it's just different. And it's a kind of like the world is like this, and you are seeing it, and you just want to do more, and then maybe turn it to another side and see the world shows a different face to you. And I think this thing really fascinated me. And that's kind of like, I bought a lot of photo books. It's more like, oh, there is maybe British photographer went to Beijing and photographed the Beijing totally different from what I saw in the past 8 years. And which means, oh, is there anything over there I have never experienced? And I want to try that. I want to see that thing next time. And so those kind of things really are the things drives me to like looking for work. And every time when I have questions, I just look back to see the history and to see what people did before, and they say, oh, they did that, and what's the next step? It's kind of like back and forth all the time.
Any other questions from? So what do you have some advice, like what to do once if you graduate from school? I mean, this is still, there's still some time for that for students here in this class. But what did you do to keep you engaged in the medium or in your practice?
Well, to be honest, I've never thought about I will be a full-time artist. I never, because one agent, our director of the photo school, and asked me, what do you want to do after when you graduate from school? I say, oh, I want to try to do curating things. I want to do publishing. I want to do like maybe nonprofit, which is what I'm doing right now. Which means if I'm doing that, I can make some money to support my living, and then I have time to create my own things. I never thought about I will just living with my works. No, I think because I have that mind, so I don't have too much pressure, from creating new works, like a commercial things. Once client tells you, oh, deadline is tomorrow, and it's really driving you nuts, because I want to do curating things. I want to do like art organizations. I want to be close to the art world, but I don't want my own creation to be that close to the art world. I still want some like a private room for myself to create my own stuff.
Mm-hmm. Some freedom.
Yeah, I would say different people have different minds. And
Yeah.
like when I graduated from my undergrad school in Beijing, and I feel like, oh, I just want to make more money at that time. I have no vision for my future. Who can know after 3 years I resign my job and came to another country and study art. I never thought about that at that time. Who knows? Just to open your mind and open to different possibilities. And sometimes the things just came to you. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Sure. Anytime.
Thank you, Lucien. So it's a pleasure to have you here in the class today. Thank you for a great presentation and to give us a glimpse into your practice. I'm always impressed on how creative you are and the scope of your practice, how you're constantly searching and analyzing and finding new ideas. So this was really exciting for us to
yes, I think just to see, I would say seeing different artists doing their work, it's a very different experience. Like I graduated from Academy of Art, but I have friends from CTA, from SFAI, and you can see the environment of the different schools are different. Students focus on different things, talk to different people, they might just give you different ideas with the same thing. Because when you stare at the same thing for too long, you will be like, I don't know what the possibilities about this stuff, but somebody else might just show you something different.
Okay, that's true.
I had a quick question.
Oh, go ahead.
Did you take the Pinhole class at the Academy?
Actually, no. When I was at school, that class was not offered. But I'm a friend too.
Yeah, they're offering it next. Yeah, they're offering it next semester. So.
But Pinhole camera is not hard. If you want to know, email me. I will just send you something.
Yeah, but it'd be great to have an entire semester where I can dedicate a lot of time to,
yes.
class.
Pinhole, it's a different thing. I would say it's a little bit away from all of this photographic processes. But it's really fun to play with.
Yeah,
try
I've experimented with it a little bit. With it some.
Try it.
Chris, you want to do more work on Pinhole camera with Pinhole camera?
Actually, I'm ordering the Intrepid 8x10 here soon and getting a 4x5 reducing back. So I'm gonna try to start doing a lot of work with it. I'll probably try to start shooting dry plates to begin with.
Yeah, dry plate is pretty good. It's fast. It's not wet plate clothing. Dry plate is a really good. It's a really good process to start.
The ones that I'm getting, I think, are ISO 2. I think.
Wow.
Yeah, so dry plate is kind of start with ISO 2, ISO 3. It depends on who is the manufacturer of that dry plate. If you want to coat it by yourself, start with ISO 2. But the wet plate is another thing. Wet plate is kind of like ISO 0.3, something like that. It's really slow. A lot of people doing wet plate. The coding process, it's really good. but I didn't show any of my website clothing works today because I love the process, but I never figured out how that process can work for me.
Yeah, I'm
I don't
interested in the
know.
dry plate. I like the
I
dry
don't
plate
know.
process because it seems like it's more accessible. You can take it more places. There's no chemicals to mix up. You're loading
Yes.
plates and taking shots.
Yes, because doing dry paste is a way. Let me show you a dry paste. Actually, that's some dry paste I collected from a flea market. The seller has no idea what are those. They just send me the whole box with $10. That's I think 80, 90s dry paste. So it's I'm not sure if you can see there's the images on it. That's the portrait.
Yeah, I can kind of make it out. Yeah.
So now when we go to like B&H or Freestyle, we bought the film. It's a roll film, but 100 years ago, when you go to the store, say, oh, I want to buy film, they sell you this, a box of dry paste, and then you have to, there's 12 pieces of glass, you have to load it to your camera or placeholder. That's a group photo. In the dark room, then put it into the camera like that, and then you're good to go. That's the film of 100 years ago. That's dry paste. And if you are doing dry paste today, it's the exactly same thing. No difference.
And then your daguerreotypes, did you hand polish those or?
Yes. Wow. I
That's
don't want to do
work.
it again. I don't want to do it again. It's just
on a 4x5.
It's
they were 4x5.
I did half plate actually. It's
Okay.
smaller than. It's smaller.
A lot of polishing though.
Let me show you my daguerreotype. It's a framed daguerreotype. It's really small. The reflection goes crazy.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, I can see it. I love the way it's framed too.
It's just the inner part. That's a piece of daguerreotype. So daguerreotype is good, but it's too expensive. It's the density of the silver on the copper plates has a requirement. You have to reach that point, which means you have to have someone to make you the plate. If you buy the well-made plate, that's just too expensive, like $800 4x5 size, $800 for like 6 pieces or something like that.
Yeah, I think the 8x10 glass plates, the dry ones that I was looking at, ended up being about $12 a plate.
$12 is fine. That's totally fine. Yeah.
I keep bothering Lucien because I want to show daguerreotype in the gallery, but he's like, no, I'm not.
No, I'm not. Go ask Bindar.
No, he already has a gallery.
Yeah. That's true. He signed with Heinz, I think, right?
Yeah.
And daguerreotype is it's a maybe in the future. I don't know. It's a daguerreotype for me. Besides the price issue, I think it's kind of the same issue with the wet fit clothing, because I don't know how the process can work for my project. It's a good process, but I didn't find the bridge yet. I just maybe in the future when I doing something really wants that feeling, I will go back to daguerreotype. But I know how to get daguerreotype. That's a good thing, and so I don't have to worry about that.
Yeah, I think what you're doing now is great, though. Your work is amazing. It was awesome to see.
Oh, thanks. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Lucien. That was really. Thank you for a great.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you, and
thank you.
And we'll meet again soon, I'm sure.
Yeah, for sure. Because I think the frame will be sent out soon, so I will bring works to the gallery soon.
Oh, excellent. Excellent. Thank you. And I'll contact you. I'll email you later.
Oh, sure, no problem. I will send you a slideshow anyway, and you can want to share with the students.
Oh, excellent. Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you.
No problem.
Thank you for preparing this.
Yeah. No problem. Anytime.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Okay. So what did you think of Lucien's presentation and his practice?
Yeah, that was great.
Yeah, that was awesome. I think it was great to see the progression from where he started when he first got there to where he ended up.
Is there a body of work? He presented some of his bodies of work. Is there some that you were more drawn to?
I loved his like 24-hour series. Like,
This One Day Solar?
yeah, the One Day Solar. Those were so pretty.
Mm-hmm. You like the different colors and the imprint of the sun?
Yeah, I like to, like, you would think that like photographing almost the same thing or capturing the same thing, it would just get repetitive, but it kind of shows just how different every day can actually be.
Yeah. Yeah, and that was the beautiful thing that happened when once they were all in the gallery, 15 of them, and because I thought it would be too many, you know, it's like now in galleries, there's a giant gallery in San Francisco, which I'm not going to give the name, but it's really giant. It's like a half a warehouse. I mean, it's really big. It's not a half a warehouse, but it's really big, high ceiling, giant, and they have, last time I went there, they had on the giant wall a small 8x10 gelatin silver print, and that's it. That's it. And on the opposite wall, they had another one, and that's it. And so it's not, usually it's kind of the tendency now for galleries to be really, really minimal. So when we decided to do the opposite, all of them, I was like, that's weird. No, but maybe I'm completely wrong. But then it was really interesting to spend time with them because you would realize how he's creative with the same repetition, the same subject. I mean, the same ideas, different location, and how he's creating within very limited parameter the complete different visions. And that was really exciting to see that.
Yeah, I really like the photo gravure process where he acid etched the plates. I thought that was awesome to be able to make multiple prints of the same image over and over.
Are you thinking about doing something like that, Chris?
Well, I've been looking into carbon printing and doing ambrotypes and stuff so that I can make prints from it. But yeah, that's another process now that I guess I'm going to go down the rabbit hole on.
Yeah, you're you're exploring something dangerous.
Yeah.
I love ambrotype, dry plates, and I mean all of those. It's really
yeah, I really like the traditional processes and printing and all that sort of stuff.
Mm-hmm. Any other comments on his practice? As I told you, he's really enthusiastic, so that's great. He's really passionate about what he's doing. And it's not easy to be that self-motivated sometimes. If you don't have assignments, if you don't know. So of course, if you have a gallery show, it motivates you. But if it's in between, you don't know who's going to see your work, it's not easy. So I think it's quite remarkable.
Yeah, I feel like he gave me hope that his motivation came back once he graduated to create and be more creative.
Yeah.
And focusing on projects that we're doing.
And I think one thing that also motivates him or keeps him in the field, and I think that's always something to keep in mind, is that wherever you are, join, a group. Maybe, maybe on Instagram, join a group of large format photography. And if they have an informal Zoom meeting, join them, look for nonprofit. That's what he started to do, actually. And I think because he's in contact with all these people, it keeps him active and thinking about his process. Because if you completely isolate yourself and you're not linked to any group that's related to photography or to some other practices that you're interested in, it's not easy to, the isolation might make things a little bit difficult on the long term, pursuing a fine art career.
I think that's a good thing about technology these days with social platforms. It's easy to stay connected with other people that are, with us, share the same interests.
Yeah, it's much easier than it was. Yeah. Okay. So it's almost 3. So let's take a little break. And after the break, I'm gonna ask you to present your photographer.